Hello again, you guys. So our lesson is about freshwater habitats. Let me start by showing you that freshwater is almost 3% of all of the water on Earth because 97% is salt water. So this chart shows you that the amount of fresh water is way too little if you compare it with the amount of salt water on Earth. Now, if you take only this amount, 3% of freshwater habitats, if you follow the arrow, you'll notice that almost 76% of it is ice or frozen in icebergs. And there is almost 23% that is found underground. It's called groundwater. And if you look here at the teeny tiny small partition, this is the yellow part. This is the percentage of the lakes and rivers. It's almost, if you round it, it's almost like 0.5%, which is like 0.5% of all of the fresh water, which is a way too little amount of fresh water that we get from rivers and lakes. And of course, we have some fresh water as water vapor in the air. It's a very little amount, 0.037. Anyways, let me tell you, the word habitat, when we say habitat, it means that it's the animal's living place. And, different plants and animals need different living conditions because some animals live in fresh water like the goldfish, and some animals live in seawater or salt water like the whales. Now, the freshwater biomes, they include lakes, ponds, rivers, streams, and wetlands. Okay, though it is one of the smallest biomes of the world, it is of great importance. They are very important because all of those animals and plants, most of them need fresh water. They need it to survive. So some examples of freshwater biomes like rivers, swamps, almost all lakes and ponds. Now some of the examples of freshwater animals. Most animals that live in or depend on fresh water are not able to live in or depend on salt water. So if they live in fresh, they cannot live in the salt water. Examples like the beaver, frog, trout, goldfish, swan, etc. So the freshwater habitats, what do they include? They include streams, rivers, lakes, ponds, swamps, marshes, and bogs. I'll be showing you their pictures and we will be discussing each one of them later during this video. So these habitats are essential or important for the life on Earth, providing not just drinking water, but also it's a home for countless animals and plants. These are some examples again. The river otter, the troutfish, the toad and the frog, and alligators. So, starting with rivers and lakes, I just wanted you to notice that in rivers and lakes we have land on both sides and we have running water or flowing water in the middle. So rivers and streams are formed either by a spring, which is groundwater emerging or coming out from under the ground, or by melting snow and ice from the top of the mountains. But all rivers eventually flow into the ocean, most of them, because some of them just flow and they go make lakes. Although their names may change as they merge or join together with other rivers along the way. So these are some examples of the biggest rivers on Earth. This is the river Nile, which is in Africa. It is generally considered as the longest river on Earth. Other scientists believe that the Amazon River is the longest. It is in South America. It's considered to be the longest river by other scientists. But anyways, the uses of the water are many. Some of water is used for agriculture, for planting, industries and factories. It's also used in drinking, in transportation systems like boats, as a food resource because animals live in the fresh water, and some of the animals that we eat, like the cow, the sheep, the chicken, they need to drink fresh water also. Tourism, because some people, they travel to other countries to see the beautiful rivers and lakes in them. Mineral extraction, because some minerals like gold can be found in the river banks. And animal and plants, they are aquatic habitats for animals and plants. So, here are some examples of the water uses, like boating for tourism and for creating electric energy from the water mills that they put beside rivers. So animals can use lakes and rivers to cool down, like the hippos and elephants to cool down because their skin gets too warm because of the hot weather. Now, lakes and ponds, this is the biggest lake on earth. It's Lake Baikal in Russia. Some of the natural ways in which lakes are formed is that some parts of the rivers become cut off from the main flow. They make lakes, and sometimes the volcano craters, they get filled with water if the volcano is dormant and it's not erupting, and it will make a lake on top of the volcano. Or sometimes a meteorite may strike the earth and this will make a crater on the ground, and when it rains on it, it will make a lake or a pond. So if you ask yourself, how are ponds different from rivers? Actually, ponds don't have running water, while rivers do have running water, and ponds have land all around them, while rivers have land on both sides with running water in the middle. In number 2, they said, how are rivers and lakes alike? Well, actually, they are alike because both contain fresh water. And number 3, if you were asked to go fishing, it is the best to go fishing in a lake because, in the river, the water will flow and you will not be able to catch as much fish. Wetlands are not that deep and streams are too small, much smaller than rivers. So wetlands, the freshwater wetlands are areas that are covered by fresh water for all or most of the year. Wetland soil is waterlogged and that's the reason why different kinds of plants live there. The water from the wetlands it can come from 2 sources, or there are 2 ways for the water to be in wetlands. It's either from the flood water from rivers and lakes and streams. This comes from, rain, or sometimes the groundwater seeps up through the bedrock underneath the soil. Okay? These are some examples of wetlands, like marshes and bogs and swamps. Here's again bog, fen, marsh, and swamp. So the difference between marshes and swamps is that both of them are wetlands, of course, but marshes do not have trees. They have grasses, while swamps, they grow trees. The difference between bogs and fens, because a lot of people mix up or cannot differentiate between them, is that bogs have smaller plants and they get rainwater. They get water from the rainfall, and the water in it is more acidic. While in fens, they get water from under the groundwater, and the plants that live there are slightly bigger than the plants that live in bogs. So freshwater habitats are very important because they are not just important for humans, they're also important for animals and plants. We use it for drinking and eating and stuff. And the freshwater that we use, it's also used for drinking, bathing, washing, and irrigation, for plants, for planting. We also feed on many freshwater plants and animals, so we should take care of it and conserve it and not waste it. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.